Over the years, I've run into a number of game masters who are nervous about running a game set in an established setting. Sometimes it's an established media property like Tolkien's Middle-earth or Lucas's Star Wars. In other cases, it's a published RPG setting. This becomes even more true, of course, when the lore of the setting is particularly dense or particularly expansive. Common examples include Empire of the Petal Throne, Transhuman Space, or even the Forgotten Realms. The perception is that in order to run such settings, the game master must be possessed of an encyclopedic mastery of their minutiae. A similar problem seems to often afflict historical settings. "I've got to get this right" is a mental trap that I can understand, but as a game master, you need to be comfortable letting it go, because it will consistently limit your gaming. You want to run a game set in contemporary Toronto? Well, even if you've lived there your entire life, you're probably going to end up contradicting reality at some point while running it. Ditto if you're running a World War II scenario, or a Victorian London scenario, or a Samurai Japan scenario. Running only settings which you've created for yourself completely out of whole cloth so that you won't get anything wrong is a really strict straitjacket that's going to rob you of a lot of really great gaming experiences. On the flip side, that doesn't mean you should get flippant with continuity either. Nobody playing in a Star Wars game, for example, wants to see the Death Star show up as a giant cube.
That's no moon. It's a space station.
What you're looking for is the grok threshold, the point where you fundamentally understand how the setting ticks, so that you can make up new details about the setting in a way that's consistent with the setting as a whole. Once you've hit the grok threshold, though, you should feel free to own the setting, which can also mean making significant changes to the established canon. Often the quickest way to reach the grok threshold is, ironically, to start using the setting. Now here are a few tips that I found useful for getting to that point as quickly as possible. First, if you want to look up a detail during the game, give yourself 30 seconds to find it. If you haven't found it after 30 seconds, make it up. If it turns out that you've contradicted something, sort it out after the session, by either revising the setting or explaining the necessary retcon to your players. Second, if you've got a player at the table with expertise, don't be afraid to leverage that expertise. "Hey, Bob, what's the name of the Archduke of the Red Isles?" It can be that simple. On the other hand, if you're feeling pressured by the expert to always get it right, it can be useful to establish up front that you've customized the setting and that people can expect changes. Don't be afraid of accepting corrections if it's not a big deal, but if it would mean that you have to scrap all of the prep for your current session, just retcon the setting to match your prep and move forward from there. Third, you can actually dip your toes into a setting by starting in areas which aren't heavily described in the existing lore. Eclipse Phase, for example, is an incredibly dense and complicated setting, but there are thousands of habitats and settlements which have no description whatsoever. Even official locations within the setting will often have only minimal descriptions. For example, here's a description of the, let's say, Carpo habitat. Carpo is one of the few moons of Jupiter that is in its own group. This irregular moonlet is only about 3 kilometers in diameter, yet hosts a population of around 17,000 transhumans. Over 98% of that number are infomorphs, and the remainder synthmorphs. The Carpo infomorphs reside in a simulspace designed and managed by an infomorph calling himself David, with a 5 instead of a V. The simulspace itself is an alternate historical America, in which transhuman ethics and morality are being applied to 1800 sensibilities. Admission is very strict and seemingly completely arbitrary. And that's it. That's everything we know about Carpo. Now, it's easy to completely master those details and then build on top of them. With a particularly expansive setting, it can also be effective to limit the official canon for your games. For example, when I run Star Wars campaigns, I have virtually always limited my canon to the 6 movies created by George Lucas, unless I'm specifically running a game to explore some other chunk of official lore. Now, I'll freely reach out and grab other interesting bits of lore, planets, characters, etc., from novels, comics, and animated series, or even the holiday special if I'm feeling particularly perverse. These become resources I can tap without being restrictions which I feel bound by. Now, this may all seem like a lot of hassle, so why bother? Well, the primary reasons for using a pre-made campaign setting are the excellent expectations and knowledge of the players, the sense of shared community, the reduction in prep time, and the injection of someone else's creative vision into your own. Using a setting that your players are already familiar with is a great way of simplifying how much they need to learn before you can start playing. It can also be really exciting for a player to leap into a universe that they know and love. Everybody wants to be a Jedi, and when you mention Alderaan, you don't have to explain that it was the site of a horrible genocide by the Dark Lord. Everyone at the table immediately understands that. And you, as the game master, get to create and share experiences from your favorite fictional worlds. The resources available for these fictional worlds can also drastically reduce your prep time. If you want to run a campaign in a fantasy metropolis in your homebrewed setting, for example, you'd have to start by creating the metropolis. But if you're running a campaign in the Forgotten Realms, there are like a half dozen fully developed metropolises. You can just pick one and go. Now, finally, there's this idea of injecting someone else's creative vision into your own, or vice versa. I actually think this can be the most valuable aspect of using a published setting. Just as actors perform the role of Hamlet because they want to take Shakespeare's creative vision and expand it with their own, so your goal in using a pre-made campaign setting should be to take the creative vision of that setting and expand it with your own. The actor playing Hamlet will learn things and create things they would never have created if they had simply improvised all their own dialogue. Similarly, you will learn things and create things as a game master you would never have created if you had simply made the setting yourself. Which is not to disparage the art of creating your own campaign setting or improv acting, obviously. My point here is that the degree to which you accept the creative vision of the setting and the degree to which you transform the creative vision of the setting will vary in both part and scale. You want to take the setting of Eclipse Phase, for example, and consciously make some huge changes to the setting, like moving the Jovian Republic to Mercury, or having the Factors wage a guerrilla war against humanity on Mars? Go for it. After your last session, you discovered that you were referring to Carpo's AI as Melissa with a 1 instead of David with a 5? It's similarly fine for you to just embrace that change and then move forward to see what happens next. Now, what you should do next is drop down into the comments and let me know what topics Advanced Game Mastery should cover in the future. While you're down there, check out the Font of All Knowledge. I'll be dropping some links in there to the games and settings we've talked about today. And if you haven't subscribed already, you should do that too. Good gaming. This is Justin Alexander, and I hope to see you at the table.